scalp you.
I know so many people that use the United Way over the years. If it wasn't there, we would really be in a mess. I know that for a fact.
United Way of Windsor, Essex County, the way to help the most.
Hello and good evening. Welcome to 401 Sunset. My name is John Bourne, and I'll be your host as we explore the issues, events, people, and places both here on campus and around Windsor. Now wait, don't change the channel. 401 Sunset isn't just another news program. We're an alternative to news. We present you with a bi-weekly communique written and produced by students and staff here at the university. Still not convinced? Well, listen to what we've got in store for you tonight. We'll be talking about change. Now, I don't mean the stuff that jingles around in your pocket. I'm talking about the new changes that are happening on campus in the 90s. Michelle Stonkus presents us with the pros and cons of living in McDonald and Laurier Hall, the new co-ed residences. Sherry Tamsu will discuss AIDS awareness on campus and how the so-called plague of the 20th century is affecting students. DJ Jeff Lorenzen reports on CJAM, the campus radio station, and the changes that have caused temporary trailer trauma and other ailments. By now, you're probably thinking, how can we possibly pack so much infotainment into 30 short minutes? Our very own Johnny Carson Carrington will be interviewing newcomer Leslie Hart Stavali on her first impressions of Windsor. So sit back, relax, and join us for the next half hour. We'll kick things off by going to Michelle Stonkus as she explores how things have changed over at Laurier and McDonald Hall since they became co-ed residences this September. We'll discover that sometimes the gender gap can become the gender gorge.
Most first-year university students that go away to school find themselves living in residence. Some of them like it so much they stay for another year. Some of them like it so much they stay in residence for the entire duration of their education. As of September 1992, Mac Hall and Laurier Hall, residences at the University of Windsor, both went co-ed. We talked with some of the people that lived there. They've lived there this year, and some of them lived there last year. We talked to them about the changes that have occurred and how they feel about the change. How do you feel about living in a co-ed residence?
I think it's kind of fun. Like, it doesn't seem like co-ed because our whole floor is girls, so most of the time I'm just spending all my time with the girls anyway. But it's kind of fun because the guys come down and they're rowdy and they kind of give the floor a little bit of energy.
How long have you each lived in Laurier?
This is my second year in Laurier.
This is my fourth year in Laurier.
So both of you have lived with it co-ed and with just girls.
Mm-hmm.
What do you prefer?
Just girls.
Me too. Not so much because the guys are here, but I'm just finding that there's the odd little thing that's changed. I felt a little bit more secure knowing that there couldn't be guys walking down the back stairwell, freely walking in and out of the building. There's 360 people in this building. It's hard to tell who's supposed to be here and who's not. From a desk porter point of view, last year it was really easy to say, hey, you're a male, you don't belong, where this year you don't have a clue. People can walk in and out. Yeah, there is the pass system, but it's a little bit harder until you get to know.
Yeah. I work as a desk porter as well, and it's really difficult to tell who is from the building and who's not. There's a book with everybody's picture in it, but I mean, you can only know so many faces before you start going, wow, do you live here or not?
You've lived in Mac when it was all guys, and you've lived when it was girls and guys. Can you tell me what you think about having girls in your building?
It's a little quieter.
A lot
quieter. A little cleaner.
Is that good? Are those good things or bad things?
Yeah, both. It's good, isn't it? Yeah, it's got its ups and downs.
It's not as loud as it was last year. Not as many parties.
Well, can you tell me what some of the things were going on last year that aren't really going on this year?
A lot of vandalism. That's the polite way of saying it. I don't know. The place was a mess.
Oh, yeah?
It was the halls were the place you didn't want to be. Yeah, it was.
And they didn't really care before, but now, like,
yeah.
There's girls here, not to be stereotypical or nothing, but they're trying to keep it cleaner for the girls because I guess they're not as messy as guys.
Generally, no, they're not.
Is that a good thing or bad thing? Do you find yourself picking up after yourselves more?
Not me.
No. I find myself picking up after him more. Yeah.
Since the residences have become co-ed, you've been a resident assistant in a all-girl residence, and now you're with both people, both sexes. Have you seen any major differences at all?
Major difference may only, probably the noise a little bit. It's a little more noisy here than I think it was in Laurier last year. But not a big difference, just like I would say no more disciplinary problems or anything else like with out of control people or anything. It's basically about the same.
Why did you think they decided to make both residences co-ed, Laurier and Mac?
With the increasing amount of females coming into university, we needed more spots for women, as well as kind of moving the residents up to the 90s, having both female and a male environment. It kind of hopefully will calm the building down. One will react better with the other, and hopefully more mature, since there's both sexes in the building.
What do you think were the reasons behind making Laurier?
The guys were destroying Mac Hall.
They were. Part of the problem that they found with Cartier and Cody especially, being co-ed, that they had less repairs to do, that it was generally a more subdued environment. It was a cleaner environment. Because with the females around, they found that the building was respected a little bit more.
Do you think were the reasons behind making Mac and Laurier both co-ed?
Control.
I think so too.
Calm people down?
Yeah.
What was happening to Mac last year?
It was bad.
It was the non-study environment.
Was there any reaction from your parents at all when they found out the residence was going co-ed?
No.
No?
I'm not sure they know.
I think that it's letting the university students judge how responsible they are for themselves. They're 20 years old or 19 years old. They're big people. They'll take care of themselves. I know it shocked a lot of parents to see it co-ed, but I think that at the age that they're at, they can live in this environment and take responsibility for their actions.
Co-ed residences or single-sex residences, which is better? From those we talked to, the decision was split. Some of them liked it this way, some of them liked it the old way. For the most part, the new change is what is preferred by those in residence. For 401 Sunset, I'm Michelle Stonkus.
Thanks, Michelle. I guess a little understanding of the opposite sex can go a long way. It also takes a little understanding, as well as a sprinkle of common sense, to cope with the fear of contracting the AIDS virus. Although Halloween is long over, Sherry Tamsu shows us a new perspective of how the ghostly figure of AIDS is still haunting us.
1992 marks the second year that AIDS Awareness Week has been observed on a national scale. Here at the University of Windsor, AIDS Awareness Week newspapers were distributed to students and professors. This informative paper stressed the spirit of understanding, support, and hopefully overcoming the disease itself. But do we really understand all that we need to know about the AIDS virus? And do we take advantage of this information that's available to us? And ultimately, do we take the steps necessary to prevent infection?
We have a clinic at Student Health Services where doctors are here on duty from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. If anybody has concerns about their health and concerns about whether they would like to be tested for HIV, they can come in and talk to the doctors. The test can be done here if they want. Other information, there's in the health education department, there's pamphlets and flyers, and if anyone wants to discuss their risk factors, they can come in and talk to the health educator. There's not anonymous testing at our clinic, but there's anonymous testing in Windsor. It's located at the HIV Care Center, which is at Metropolitan Hospital. There's also anonymous testing at the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit.
Anonymous testing is good because it allows individuals that opportunity to go in there and be tested, and so they could, you know, if they are positive, they can protect others from it. And if they're not positive, they can protect themselves in future situations from it.
I think it's a good idea to be able to have the security, knowing that you can go in, you know, if you have any doubts at all, or just to be on the safe side to go in and not be identified.
AIDS information is accessible at the health education department, and anyone who knows that we're here can come in at any time to get the information. I'm not sure that there's anywhere else on campus that's easily available to everyone.
You know, I don't see that much information on it, on the AIDS virus and stuff like that. I've just recently started to see things, very recently on it, in the last month or so. But no, if you wanted to know more about the virus, you'd probably have to, you know, I wouldn't know how to go about getting information on campus. I wouldn't know.
You're in the nurse's office for whatever varied reason, and you're sitting there and you're bored, and you pick up little pamphlets, and one happens to be about AIDS. Maybe you're in the library, and again, if it's not for your own personal research, going in there and getting information, but besides that, I don't really think enough's being done.
Some of the misconceptions that students have that I have knowledge of because they ask me these questions would be really not having accurate information or accurate knowledge of the risk factors involved in HIV transmission. The old myth that it started as a gay disease and it's still a gay disease and it's not going to happen to me because I'm not that very high risk. There has been studies done about alcohol involvement with unsafe sexual decisions. Alcohol and unsafe sex is so closely linked that Homewood, which is a residential treatment center for alcohol and drug abuse, and Ortho Pharmaceuticals, which makes shields, have gone together, and they have a poster campaign out to show that drinking and...
Hello. Oh, what in the fuck is going on here? It's because, if you can't guess, I don't have a co-host. That's why there's all this weird stuff. I wonder where co-host might be. Since he's heckling me in the chat, I'm going to assume he's around. I'm going to assume he's around. Just as a guess. Just as a guess. Just as a guess. Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. I am going to go ahead and push forward and just go ahead and start into the stream. And we will get this window filled with another person, hopefully pretty soon. That would be lovely, I think. That's my hope, at least. Sunday, he's got stuff that he's dealing with today, so that's fine. We all do. Real life is a fucking thing, even for streamers. If you didn't know, even streamers have real lives. I heard a noise.
Hello.
Hello.
Did you start without me? You couldn't wait 2 minutes?
I was getting heckled by some asshole who kept being like, Jesus Christ, Brooks, why are you watching this stuff? And I was like, I think that guy's right. He was a moderator too. He had a blue name and everything. And when your mods start yelling at you that it's time to start the stream, I feel like it's probably time to start.
Well, in any case, I hope everyone enjoyed their nostalgic AIDS PSA.
I don't. You don't. If you guys don't find that fascinating, I find it incredibly fascinating.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating. It's like we're all socially watching collectively the cancer diagnosis of our society. It's brilliant.
I mean, then you can say our society for that video.
I can say our society for every video because
that one's Windsor. That's for the Great White North.
Oh, was it?
Yep.
Oh,
I have Canadian broadcasts inside of my absolutely absurd pack of weird dumb shit that I have. But I have that. I do.
You know what's not good that I learned today? Just really not a good combination. Coffee and sardines. Don't do it. It's not happening. It does not go well. The oil sticks to your mouth and you're just drinking sardine flavored coffee. Deeply unpleasant.
What the fuck, dude?
Yeah. They're healthy for you. They help with cognition. They're just very, very bad if you're having coffee immediately afterwards, which I am.
A unique thing that is quite good is cold brew and Coca-Cola.
Really?
Yep. Not North America, for some fucking reason, nowhere. Europe, kind of everywhere. They put soda in everything. Which is always funny. It's my favorite. My favorite thing is that I first had soda mixed with beer in Germany, which was amazing, by the way. Like, as a thing, there's a lot of options like Squirt, grapefruit soda mixed in, Fanta, it's pineapple Fanta basically, or grapefruit Fanta. But that's great. But someone there made Coke and beer, and then Coke and coffee. It's good stuff. Of course, it does explain the weight problem that people are starting to have in Europe. But hey, what can I say?
Let's square this circle, okay? We're gonna give you a choice to vote for your favorite. What would be, in fact, the best flavor of canned sardine? We've got Coca-Cola, we've got peanut butter. We're gonna put coffee down, and I think kombucha for the last one. Unless you have any suggestions.
Kombucha. So I do homemade kombucha. I don't recommend it with soda or with sardines. Those aren't combos that would make sense to me.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say that. That's slanting the outcome of the.
I'm just letting you know. I wouldn't say kombucha. Kefir and sardines, or sardines.
You want yogurt
fermented
and sardines. That is foul.
Fermented sardines. Surströmming.
Yeah, but that's not in milk though. That's just like evil.
Surströmming in milk.
No. Stop it.
That's an abomination. That's fair.
We're going to talk about the president announcing yet again that he's going to run for a third term, and by
I actually think it's a safe bet. I think what we're going to end up doing is actually, I think let's talk about the presidency as a thing today. How about that?
Sure, why not?
Well, because it's an article you posted up. 1 second, I want to make sure I get the last little bit. Donate to us. The link is in the chat.
And if you donate to us, it'll be read out by a soulless AI voice that doesn't understand love.
This is true. Although I have I'm working with a couple of really good text-to-speech things. I'm trying to see if we can figure out a funnier voice that would be more fitting for the stream. We'll see. Last is, of course, like and subscribe. We need that. All right. Start stream. Off we go. Look at that. I think for me, I want to kind of start with that first article because I think that's at least for me, at least.
All right.
So it's I know you can see it. Let me make sure it's out there. There's this weird thing that's going on with Nixon these days. We've seen it over the last few years. In no short part, I'm sure, to Roger Stone, who, if you didn't know, has a tattoo of Nixon on his back. The same way Steve-O has a tattoo of Steve-O on his back. It's almost identical. It's gross and awful. But it is a real thing. What can I say? It looks like this. Roger Stone has a tattoo of Nixon on his back, which is amazing as a thing. Of course he does. But the fascinating part of the last, couple of years has been this push to make Nixon anything other than what he really was, which was a racist, authoritarian, overextended, despot piece of shit. You see it, you'll hear it in lefty even circles where they're like, Nixon was left of a lot of these guys, and on environmental issues, he created the EPA, he did this, he did that, and you hear a lot of that. And I thought this article was a really interesting take. Did you want to read it or go over it, or do you want me to just jump in?
Sure. One moment, let me pop it up on my end so I can go down. You just keep up with me, okay?
I will do my best.
If the Richard Nixon Foundation transfers, not answers your call, if it answers your call, you've gone back in time several decades and we can't help you. If the Richard Nixon Foundation transfers your call, a haunting song chimes through the receiver. It's the disgraced president's 1972 re-election song, More Than Ever. The upbeat School of Rock-esque fanfare that once pumped into millions of televisions 52 years ago. More than ever, we need Nixon now, sings a choir as sturdy horns, snares, piano chords crescendo. But transmitted through a landline, the tune curdles into something more like a funeral dirge.
Subscribe or Brooks Audio will get worse.
I hope this fixed it. It's the most frustrating part of this is I'm listening to monitors on my side as you guys are saying this, and I am not hearing a fucking issue because, of course, I'm not.
Oh my God.
Which sucks.
The moment you said I'm not, it just went...
Wonderful.
And now you're
no issues on my side.
Now you're echoing.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to continue. I was calling the guardians of Nick's endowment because I wanted to understand how a man once cast into the dustbin of history has come to experience a renaissance. In recent years, the foundation has become active online, framing Tricky Dick not as a craven megalomaniac, but a champion of the people. And in tandem with popular conservative pundits and leaders, has sought to rewrite the story of Watergate as a kind of push via bureaucratic cabal. This account, once a marginal perspective expressed only by Nixon's most ardent apologists, has in the last few years gone mainstream as his foundation embarked on a blitzkrieg of TikToks, social media posts, and an upcoming film to build a new generation of neo-Nixians.
Nixonians.
Nixonians. What did I say? Nixians? Neo-Nixians? Neo-Nixonians. Jesus.
Neo-Nixonians. I'm hoping my audio gets slightly better. Fuck.
It seems to be getting worse the more you talk about it. Every single time you mention your audio gets worse. It's like somebody at Google is watching and just fucking with it.
Love it. Love it.
Have you gone back to a previous version of Windows yet?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
It ain't
so
that.
It's your fault.
Well, it is what it is. Like, there's only so much I can fucking do, right?
Turn your gain down a little bit and up your volume. That should
turn
help.
my gain down a little bit.
Yeah, you're peaking.
Wonderful.
I think it also might be a mic positioning thing because it tends to drift a little bit. So sometimes it's pointing. Sometimes you got it in your mouth. Sometimes it's facing the screen.
All right. My gain has been turned down. And it's still, I mean, it seems like I'm topping out right here, which is very frustrating.
Is your gain way up on OBS?
0. It's at 0 right now. It's
really?
Neutral. Yeah, I'm turning it down actively.
And Titan says it isn't. Okay, Titan says it isn't software. There's a short circuit crackle. You might have a wiring issue, or
no. I was listening to the monitor out of OBS, and there's nothing on my end whatsoever. Just letting you know, nothing on my end whatsoever. The monitor out to my headphones, perfectly fine through OBS's monitor. So there's something on the other side that's fucked up.
That doesn't make any sense because my audio is coming through okay.
Are you hearing me okay?
You were crackling quite a bit a second ago. You've had this issue on my channel too. I think it's your microphone.
Again, through OBS. The monitor
would OBS necessarily show if there was a hardware issue?
there's a hardware issue, I'd be able to hear it if I was monitoring my own signal.
All right, whatever you say. But why Nixon now more than ever? With the return of Donald Trump to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, the historical implications couldn't be clearer. Rehabilitating the president most synonymous with executive overreach and corruption paves the way for a return of Nixonian and now Trumpist power politics. Casting doubt on Nixon's tapestry of crimes paints his modern-day successor and the MAGA movement's contemporary version of right-wing populism as being unfairly disparaged, just like Nixon and his silent majority. From Vice President-elect J.D. Vance to right-wing education activist Christopher Rufo, who helped manufacture the 2021 to 2022 critical race theory hysteria, fashionable right-wingers have become enthusiastic participants in Nixon revisionism. When he was running for Senate in 2021, Vance invoked Nixon's reactionary sagacity while speaking at that year's National Conservatism Conference, declaring that the quote-unquote wisdom today's conservatives need could be found in Nixon's declaration that the professors are the enemy. In a 2023 video for the Manhattan Institute, the right-wing think tank where he works as a senior fellow, Rufo called on the right to emulate the right-wing counter-revolution that Nixon had launched against enemies he cast as radical Marxists, elite apparatchiks, and insubordinate college students. Insubordinate college students, I like that. They should do so, Rufo explained.
Nixon had a huge fucking thing for college students. It was actually one of his sort of, if there is a core thing. Like, he that phrasing hated hippies. He hated hippies. He hated college students. It was a big deal for him.
It's just that phrasing is so wild to me, especially in like a country of freedom and democracy. It's like they're insubordinate. They're insubordinate. They aren't your employees. They are not your subordinates. That's not how that works. You're their representative. At least on paper, they're your boss.
Well, this article very much goes into how Nixon saw himself as the boss of everyone and in charge of everyone. And that's, again, what they're also getting into, what Trump is trying to go through, what everyone's trying to go through here is reassembling this idea that Nixon was like a soft conservative, which then in turn makes Trump seem like a soft conservative. Is my audio still fucked up, by the way?
Sounds clear enough so far at the moment. In a 2023 video, oh wait, no, I just read that one. Insubordinate college students. They should do so, Rufo explained, both by, quote, mobilizing federal law enforcement against the left-wing radical organizations that engaged in political violence during the summer of George Floyd, unquote. What Nixon did to the Black Panther Party, the next president must do to the violent factions of our time. And by embracing Nixon's broader call for a new American revolution by laying siege to the institutions and reorienting them according to their own values, whatever the odds. The foundation was also happy to host then GOP presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy for a
Vivek. Don't we miss him?
No. Chad, are you hearing me when from Brooks? I mean, are you hearing me echo through Brooks's audio? Because I'm hearing me echo.
I told you you'd be hearing an echo through the way I'm going through this. Yeah.
Okay. But it's not really an echo. It seems to just be coming out through when you talk. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like...
Yeah, no, you're good. You're good. You're set.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Okay. So, Foundation happy to host Vivek Ramaswamy for a speech at their California headquarters in 2023, where Ramaswamy, now helping lead a new Trump initiative to lay off masses of federal workers, claimed Nixon was quote-unquote misunderstood. I think he is by far and away the most underappreciated president of our modern history in this country, probably in all of American history, Ramaswamy said. He was somebody who had a deep skepticism for the bureaucracy that sucks the lifeblood out of a constitutional republic. All three of these champions of illiberalism demonstrate how the contemporary right wants to emulate Nixon's aggressive, conniving style of politics, one that collapses the complicated economic and social interests of modern capitalism into a philosophical war between the people and the elites. And it's not written here, but so that the former can be committed to all die miserably in a new Vietnam. Then there's the increasing popularity of Watergate revisionism, as the claim that Nixon's campaign of political spying and cover-ups was actually a coup concocted by his enemies, has become a common refrain on today's right. Take an April interview between the right's most articulate huckster, former Fox News host Tucker Carlson. I don't know if I'd use that language to describe Tucker Carlson. Articulate is not what comes to mind immediately. And the internet's most credulous man, that's fair, podcaster Joe Rogan. Podcoaster would also work. At one point during their 3-hour conversation last spring, Carlson charged that the scandal was actually a coordinated operation by the FBI, CIA, and Washington Post journalist Bob Woodward.
Oh, Nixon. Goddamn. Their fascination and their sort of fetishization of Nixon overall, I think, is extremely fucking telling. I mean, it is for me. I don't know about you. It's just extremely telling the way that they go about it.
Yeah, your audio has gotten extraordinarily bad, and I can't help but notice that your mic is super close to your mouth, like touching it. Give it some space. Okay, that's better. That's probably why it's speaking.
I mean, I'm just trying to get it to a decent level, and if you can hear me fine, if everyone's working, that's fine. I'm trying to figure out where that is because I'm very low right now in my.
Yeah, you're a little quiet. If you can turn the volume up, just keep the gain down.
Okay, how's that? Is that better?
Sounds fine to me.
Happy day.
Now it's terrible.
Happy day. Now it's terrible.
Yeah.
Now it's not. Now it is. No. One.
It sounds good right now, but as soon as you confirm or acknowledge what I just said, it's going to be bad again.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's very frustrating.
Could it be a sound card issue?
No.
Okay.
I don't have a sound card, so no.
All right. It's YouTube just doesn't like you in particular, Brooks.
Apparently.
Okay. So that's a deep state coup. Carlson declared to the largest listenership in podcasting. How else would you describe that? If that happened in Guatemala, what would you say? Oh, Nixon's renewed popularity is at least in part rooted in his self-pitying populism, a clear forerunner to Trumpism today. Even before Watergate, Nixon's own mythology depicted him as a grieved innocent besieged by an effete status quo, as an aggrieved innocent besieged by an effete status quo. As a young man attending California's Whittier College, Nixon encountered a social hierarchy dominated by a clique of well-to-do snobs, student athletes, and coddled debutantes known collectively as the Franklins. The future president sought to confront this order by forming his own social circle, the Orthogonians, as a way to represent the common, unfashionable folks on campus who, as Nixon saw it, always took it on the nose from the Franklins. To Nixon, the world could be distilled into these two camps, engaged in an endless struggle for supremacy. This philosophy followed him into Congress, the vice presidency, and eventually to the highest office in the land. In his mind, the Franklins, like his arch-nemesis John F. Kennedy, were always allowed to fight dirty, but the Orthogonians were expected to be pristine Boy Scouts. And it was this deeply resentful worldview that allowed Nixon to see his crimes as completely justifiable. And you kind of see this like pretty universally. People point out the hypocrisy of like, the free speech warriors on the right are suddenly perfectly fine with all of their political opponents, even just by association, being completely silenced on these on all of these public platforms that you've just described as the new town square. What's going on? Well, what's happened is they've given themselves a very liberal definition of who their oppressors have been historically, which is, just by the way, not leftist. It's been big tech companies run by all the people, the same people, who have now been giving Donald Trump millions of dollars. To summarize it, they weren't those people. They weren't leftists who were doing that. But now, because all those same people who were censoring them before are now giving Donald Trump money, they're now happy to have those same people censoring critics of the ruling tech elite class, which is resentment is a hell of a drug.
It's Nixon's entire the idea that Nixon's mentality was around this hatred of these people, or that you're on these sides, I think is furthered by it's an idea now that we have in popular culture, the idea of you're on the list. Like, that wasn't a thing for a very long time. Yeah. And Nixon popularized it because Nixon had an enemies list, quote unquote, that was actually in memoranda that he sent around that had, I think, over 800 fucking names on it, that he would send the government to go take on and harass at length. Like, it's absolutely stunning to sort of see that thing exist. But it's an incredible thing. So just because when we get into this, Watergate's a fascinating story, but during the trial of Watergate, so much was coming out. One of the reasons that he resigned instead of going through the entire impeachment sort of process. But the enemy list was something that, just to quote the thing, Nixon's White House counsel, John Dean, would reveal its existence during the trial. George T. Bell was Nixon's special assistant, and Bell wrote that the purpose of the list was planning, quote, how we can use the available federal machinery to screw our political enemies. That's the quote in the confidential memorandum. This is why they use Signal, because that's in the confidential memorandum.
Yes.
So that's how that works. And so what they would do is they had the name, location, descriptions for enemies, the priority of taking them on, what they had done, how you could fuck with them. They're hilarious. Like number 12 is lawyer Sidney Davidoff, who is listed, quote unquote, as a first-class SOB. Yeah. Like he's these people were fucking lunatics.
Can you check your cable plugins to make sure everything's like secure?
It can't be the cable plugins. I'm hearing myself. That's not possible. Like as a thing. If the electricity is making it to the computer into OBS and then to my headphones, that's not where the problem exists. The problem exists
not if it's loose, and it's occasionally like wobbling a little bit as you move.
I would hear that, actually. Yes, I don't. How would I not hear that?
Well, because it could be. Are your earphones plugged into your mic?
My earphones are my earphones plugged into my mic. They're plugged.
I'm gonna call them earphones from now on. I like that. Earphones.
My headphones are plugged into.
I'm sorry, your phones. I didn't catch that.
Want me to reboot my computer? That'll fix it.
No, it's okay. We'll keep going. It doesn't make any sense. Like what even could it be at this point? I think you've troubleshooted like literally every conceivable part of your system.
Yes.
I think you just need to move at this point. I think it's your house. There was absolutely a crackle back then. That was not a lie. Unless it is just worse unless there's additional crackles. There's crackling happening that the YouTube audience can hear, and there's crackling specifically that's coming to me. Oh God, I didn't even think of that. Okay.
Which again would mean that it's in the software. So it'd be in the software connections, not the hardware. Once it hits the PC, what's happening is it's getting distributed generally into different places from the single input from the USB. That software is reading it in a bunch of different ways. It's reading my mic in one place. I have it it's in one analog port that is then being sent back. I am directly connecting via that analog port via software to the OBS. I'm hearing it out of OBS perfectly fine. You're getting my loop back, which should be anything they hear, you should be hearing, because that again is analog back into itself.
Like crazy.
It's really incredible.
Yeah.
And it's, again, not in here. It has nothing to do with the hardware. It's also not showing up here because it's on the other side. It's in a processing thing.
Money. For the Brooks Audio Diagnosis Fund.
Thank you, C-Slick.
Thank you, C-Slick.
I've had multiple people like who are like one of my longest running friends was like second in command at IT at fucking Blizzard, and he just gave up.
Yeah, I remember when you were telling us about this. It was sort of
my brother's an audio engineer who's done audio in games and complicated nightmare setups, and he's like, "You're just fucked." He tried. He thinks it's a USB issue, that it has to do with how USBs are being how the USB itself is being assigned and the addresses, and that there's conflicts. I can't find it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You might just need a new computer.
That won't be happening anytime soon. So that's the problem.
Well, we're 1337 the way there, okay? And it was this.
I mean, the problem is it's my development machine. So it has a chip in there that is I am not going to be able to replace and afford to replace anytime soon. So and the motherboard alone, if I wanted to just replace that, is like $800. So I'm fucked.
All I heard was the motherboard.
Damn it.
But I get the point. I get the idea. That's what matters. It's okay. It's like it's an actual 90s show. It works. Okay, it's like actual 90s broadcasting.
Yeah, but like, that's shit, and I don't care for that.
But it's nostalgic shit. Like it's like
I'm going to continue fucking with my audio here.
All right. Maybe don't. Maybe just leave it for now. It seems to be serviceable enough. It's just occasional crackling. I think we'll get by. All right. Anyways, paraphrasing, this Manichaean worldview of two camps allowed Nixon to see his crimes as completely justifiable. So even when the weight of his illegal surveillance of enemies, the briberies, the unsanctioned bombings, the subversion of democratic oversight, and the subsequent cover-ups caved in on each other, it was only fitting that the dishonored president would act like he was a good Orthogonian for resigning, despite Nixon having always been a notoriously Machiavellian politico willing to do anything for power. When the U.S. public, began to sour on the intelligence community following the revelations of the Church Committee, a 1975 Senate investigation into FBI and CIA misconduct, Nixon diehards advanced a more crank account of Watergate, refashioning the former president as an honorable man caught in the crosshairs of a relentless partisan ministry. Never mind that Nixon actively tried to use the CIA to undermine the FBI's investigation into his wrongdoings. Today, this Nixon as victim narrative fits neatly within the MAGA movement's worldview of Donald Trump squaring off against an entrenched center-left deep state. In August, a former Nixon lawyer who served on his domestic counsel, Jeff Shepard, made such a case during an appearance on Tucker Carlson's podcast amid... You lost my place? Today, this Nixon as victim narrative. Look up Jeff Shepard, okay? You find Jeff Shepard, you'll be there. Okay, sweet. Jeff Shepard made such a case during an appearance on Tucker Carlson's podcast amid discussing his own take on Watergate, that the scandal was a deep state ploy to elect Massachusetts Senator Ted Kennedy as president. Shepard invoked numerous Watergate conspiracy theories as a means to defend Trump. Quote, if Donald Trump hoped to understand what he would face upon moving into the White House in 2017, he would have done well to study what happened to Richard Nixon nearly 50 years prior. Shepard writes in his 2021 book, The Nixon Conspiracy, Watergate and the Plot to Remove the President. Quote, by the time Nixon took power in 1969, the deep state had held the reins of power for 40 years and wasn't about to give it up. That's a wild statement. The deep state had held the reins of power for 40 years. Does he just mean Jews? Like, what is that even referring to at that point? What is the deep state in this context? I'm so confused.
So for Nixon, and at that, I mean, again...
Because even the CIA was only established in 1947, so what's he referring to?
Well, so deep state is actually not really a term at the time. Again, this was written in 2021, and I don't think Nixon talked about the deep state, at least in memory. You'll have to go back. I can do some searches in a second. I don't see that. The earlier stuff that this was happening around this time was the bureaucracy of the permanent state. But even that, I don't think that critique entered until the mid 70s to 80s and really into the early 90s. So, like, I think that the author here in 2021 is using an anachronistic term.
Well, I know it is using an anachronistic term, but it's not the article. The article is quoting a book.
The article is quoting a book from 2021 that is in itself also
that is using the word deep state referring to Nixon. Yeah, so that's what I'm talking about.
Which is weird.
So when the book by Shepard says, when Nixon took power in 1969, the deep state, quote unquote, had held the reins of power for 40 years. I am very confused as to what he's referring to, because the deep state in this context existed since the 20s. Like what?
And Nixon wasn't even against that. Nixon was one of the people who kind of pushed HMOs and larger state infrastructure.
Okay, slow down, cowboy. You're not responding to what I'm saying. In this paragraph, a guy called Shepard writes a book, The Nixon Conspiracy, which says, when Nixon took power in 1969, the quote-unquote deep state had held the reins of power for 40 years. We know the word deep state wasn't from back there. That's not the issue. What I am confused by is, what is deep state a shorthand for?
Oh, the New Deal and FDR. The New Deal and FDR. Social Security. New Deal and FDR.
Okay.
No, I'm not joking. Like that's not
an Okay.
No,
That's
no,
not
what?
deep, though. There's nothing deep about that. There's nothing subterranean about that. That's why I'm perplexed. Because that's the whole point. Is behind the idea of a deep state is these are the quiet background workings that actually hold the reins of power. That's why he says reins of power. But these are policies and development schemes and an actual president. So it's like,
Right.
that's not the deep state. That's the front-facing part of the thing.
Okay,
That's why we have a public name for it.
but no, it's very much about the New Deal, because what the New Deal did is it created a series of bureaucratic, larger systems that are run by administrators, and those people who hold the reins of power for Social Security, what would become Medicare, Medicaid, what would become park services, jobs programs, welfare state. These are administered. These aren't actually cabinet level things. Like the Social Security Administration is not a cabinet level appointment. That's an administration. And the person who runs that, this has been since FDR, what they're talking about when they talk about unelected bureaucrats, which is the idea of the deep state and things like that. This is my understanding of that version of things.
But even then it's too early, right? Because
1929-ish is about right.
Beg your pardon?
1929 is about right.
New Deal wasn't until 1933.
Well, yeah, but that's like 4 years. He's saying for 40 years. That's about right.
That's a tenth off. Whatever. Anyways, Shepard's argument speaks not just they aren't known for, these aren't like particular numbers people. Fair enough. Shepard's argument speaks not just to today's QAnon inflected paranoia, but also to how such thinking has become institutionalized within the mainstream conservative movement. And the Nixon Foundation, whom Shepard is intimately involved with as a kind of in-house historian, has been more than happy to play along. Indeed, the Nixon Foundation has long attempted to control the historical record as a way to resurrect its namesake's reputation, as Nixon and his movement were kept at the periphery of conservative politics. For years, the Foundation was incredibly productive, only granting access to key documents and important historical artifacts. For example, the president's intimate diaries to pro-Nixon scholars, keeping them out of the hands of left-leaning academics and the non-partisan National Archives. I actually did not know about that. That's actually really disturbing. That would actually be an interesting deep dive into the Nixon Foundation, because I actually was completely in the dark about that. I didn't realize that they had been.
I'm with you.
They've been hoarding documents so we couldn't actually learn about this publicly. That's fascinating.
I think it's also worth noting real quick in the article, they're not talking about who Shepard is. And I kind of thought, like, a former Nixon lawyer who served on his domestic counsel, that's kind of burying the lead there. He was a defense counsel during Watergate. Like, he's literally the defense counsel he was the defense counsel during Watergate.
Yeah, look at that.
Like, that's kind of burying the lead, isn't it? Like,
maybe they didn't know. Like, it's possible they just referred to the book and they actually didn't look into who he was, which is a strange gaffe on their part if they don't bring it up.
I bet you if I pull up his book, it says in the fucking back, like.
Well, I bet it does. It just depends on like how the research is done. Like if there was just an interview, right? Like on some channel, and they just like, oh, that'd make a good basis for an article. I don't know. Like this is all very strange. I'm sure they'll bring up. No, they don't bring up his name. They move on to another person. Wow.
The Amazon description is of his own book. Jeff Shepard had a ringside seat to the unfolding Watergate debacle. As the youngest lawyer on Richard Nixon's staff, he personally transcribed the.
Oh no! Hang on, slow down. In August, a former Nixon lawyer. They didn't who served as domestic counsel. Okay, no, they do mention it. We just kind of skipped over it. They do. It's not. They don't go into detail like just a former Nixon lawyer, not just a former Nixon lawyer. He wasn't just a former Nixon lawyer, but yeah.
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 It's an interesting setup. I think he's very much like.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by this because it's in the description, by the way, as he uses the term deep state again. Like this is this is a Roger Stone asshole. They've got to be, I'm going to be Googling, but yeah, they've got to be close. It's fucking crazy because this book has, just flipping through real quick. It is deep state.
Yeah.
It is deep state, everything. The judiciary, he considers the deep state. The Watergate Special Prosecution Force, which are lawyers from the judicial, and then media institutions themselves are also part of the deep state to him. So I was wrong. And then the Kennedys.
Well, that's the thing, because when people talk about deep state, what they typically mean are like things that are the background, shadowy, internal kingmakers. The cathedral, as Moldbug would put it.
Right.
That's what they're referring to. And there's just nothing in the way of like a concrete continuity there when he's referring to 40 years. So either he's being fast and loose with his language or he means something else. And it's very strange. It's crazy too when you have like billionaires who control the world's media complaining about the deep state when they're in the Oval Office behind the president, able to fire everybody without any pushback. It's like you think with some people it would click a little bit. It's like the whole thing.
Just hold for one moment.
There's a bee in his office, guys. He's distracted. There's a bee.
Can you hear me, Sunday?
It's like he's trying to speak to me. I know it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right.
What did you do?
We were talking. I unplugged everything, powered down my sound system, and powered it back up, and reconnected everything.
Really? And that seems to have worked. It seems to be a lot clearer now. It's almost like
it's a power cycling on the device, which is annoying.
Really? You mean it's a hardware issue?
That's sort of. The problem is that it's, again,
I win.
It's not showing, but again, it's not playing for me, which makes no sense.
There we go again. You might need to replace your box. Probably do that for like $100.
No, not this one.
No,
sadly.
What? Well, I'm using a Focusrite. That was like 60.
Yeah,
I'm
using a Focusrite 18i20. So.
Ooh, I wonder if it's a latency issue. You just got really like it just had to speed up there for you. Weird.
Don't know what to tell you.
All right. Well, it's not a matter of you not knowing what to tell me. It's whether or not you can tell me, because you're coming through terribly right now.
You talk. I'll be here.
Okay. Well, Michael Konkowicz. How do you... What language is this word? I don't know how to pronounce this. Konkowicz? Well, Mikey, a Nixon historian who worked at the official presidential library and museum, says that the National Archives typically let presidential foundations set the public narrative about their namesake. That practice is, quote, especially glaring and troublesome when it comes to the only president to ever resign in America, unquote. And when Nixon's official library and museum finally opened 34 years ago in Yorba Linda, California, it offered a particularly biased curation of his story with an exhibit. I'm going to go with Konkowicz, because that's the best I can come up with. Konkowicz explains, arguing that, quote, that Richard Nixon was taken down by the liberal establishment, both in the media and inside the government, to reverse the results of the 1972 election, unquote. These instances of revisionism appear to be in the service of a much more cynical, revanchist narrative, one that positions Nixon's ultimate project, the unwinding of the administrative state and the government employees who uphold it, as a task to be completed by Trump. Much like Project 2025, the now infamous plans crafted by the Heritage Foundation to guide a second Trump presidency, Nixon's allies were deeply preoccupied with ridding the federal government of ideological opponents, explores historian Rick Perlstein, author of 2 in-depth books about Nixon, Nixonland, The Rise of a President and the Fracturing of America, and The Invisible Bridge, The Fall of Nixon and the Rise of Reagan. They even had their own Nixon-era blueprint to carry this out. The Malek Manual.
Is it okay if I talk for 2 seconds and you tell me I sound awful?
Yeah, go for it.
Do I sound awful is the question.
You sound awful but consistent.
I don't know what that means.
It means I can understand what you're saying, and you're not, for example, talking about your time working...
But it sounds okay.
It sounds okay. But just because you said that, you're fucked. It's gonna go bad again.
No, I mean it probably will. I mean, my luck is terrible at this point, but you know, it is what it
really is. But you sound fine right now, so
everyone else says it sounds fine. I'm just going to continue until someone yells at me, and I'm just going to be depressed.
Okay.
And then after stream, if you're up for it, can we do a fake live stream and just sit and diagnose?
Let's try and let's solve this.
Focusrite has like I don't want to diverge too much. Focusrite has like 100 bugs in their fucking Windows drivers. So again, this is why I think it's a USB Windows driver. I don't think it's hardware. I do think it's software.
No.
It's shit.
Yeah.
There's this awful thing that it's called a safe mode, which basically adds latency slightly, but it's whatever. But it introduces instability. I've just turned that off. If it doesn't do the crackles again, I'm seriously just going to I'm going to call Focusrite and I'm just going to scream and yell at whoever that is just to feel better about myself. It's Focusrite. I just have, it's what I get. Fuck. Can we please get to 1,000 subs so we can monetize and maybe?
For the love of God, so we can get proper equipment.
That would be nice. So I can upgrade my equipment that I've been stuck with. So
Brooks can afford
being
eggs.
Broken.
He's only making $5 a month, guys. He's living in a Mormon basement.
It's not far from reality, but it is the reality.
It sounds really good right now, apparently. So it is cleared up.
I'm going to do a stream personally, and we're going to get through this later today. But not right now. Right now, I'm just going to run with it.
Let's get through this segment. Let's end stream early. We'll solve this.
No. If it has another problem, we'll end stream. We'll do that. But if we can go, we're going to go until there's a problem, and then that'll be the last stream.
All right. I'm down. Let's go. You wanted to talk though, or did you just want to?
I just wanted to talk because it has problems eventually. But hey,
okay.
This seems to be going okay.
I hate this platform so much. Okay. Much like Project 2025, the now infamous plans crafted by the Heritage Foundation to guide a second Trump presidency, Nixon had the comically evil blueprint called the Malek Manual, a document authorized by close Nixon ally Fred Malek, most famous for carrying out Nixon's orders. Apologies to anybody named Malek in the audience. You do sound evil, but it's not your fault. Most famous for carrying out Nixon's orders to remove all Jewish workers employed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics.
Huh.
And which sought to expel all federal. Hey, I told you. I fucking told you. What do you think it's referring to by the deep state going back 40 years from 1969? I told you. You.
It is always Jews, isn't it? I mean, I keep doing this thing where I want to. I don't know.
You just want to see the best in Richard Nixon.
I know. I just don't want to. I don't want to keep ending up at that point where it's hey, Jews. Because I don't have my argument. There's no. Did you see Sam Cedar when he did the 20v1 thing and he up against the one girl who's what is wrong with xenophobic nationalism? And he was and he just looked at her, he's you and I are just never going to agree on anything. And he just ended it. And that's kind of, I think that's the thing for me is if it turns out that it always is Jews and they're always angry at Jews, I am not the person who's going to dissuade them of that. Neither are you. Neither of us are there's no here are the realities of biological essentialism. Yes. That's not going to matter. They don't.
No, of course not. But just in terms of how everybody else engages with them, it does help to diagnose. Hey, are these people engaging in something cynical, or are they just really, really hungry for someone to blame all their problems on? Because if Jews end up being the target, it's that one.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Especially if it's secret, especially if it's quiet in the background, right? Because then it's just okay, there's not a sane reason for this. This is satisfying some deep, undiagnosed emotional need.
Yeah, it's satisfying the self-identity of race and othering, and the Jews are a great one for othering because of the way that they've been treated for forever. Good, that's it. They work well for the mental condition that is. But it's if it is, then the answer is we just dismiss these people because they're broken and there's no winning with them. And I always hate doing that.
Yeah, and yet,
I know.
There it is.
It's just fucked, man. It is. It's Jews. It's just always fucking Jews.
I, frankly, am appalled that Richard Nixon would do this. In a close echo of contemporary right-wing complaints about quote-unquote deep state obstructionism, the manual charges that, quote, the record is quite replete with instances of the failures of program, policy, and management goals because of sabotage by employees of the executive branch who engage in the frustration of those efforts because of their political persuasion and their loyalty to the majority party of Congress rather than the executive that supervises them, unquote. If you listen to the tapes, explains Pearlstein, referring to the trove of audio that Nixon recorded from within the Oval Office, you know Nixon is obsessed with the idea of purging the government of perceived traitors. From Nixon's perspective, Pearlstein continues, the federal government is just this nest of liberals who are working against the president, when instead all government employees should serve at the pleasure of the president.
Yep.
And the man he tapped to help him is far from being a fringe figure in his time as Malek's modern counterpart at the Heritage Foundation, likewise plotting a clean sweep of the government are today. It's parallels like these that help us build a bridge from Nixon to Trump, and which help explain why, since Trump captured the Republican Party, the Nixon Foundation has sought to ingratiate itself with the Trumpist right, even going so far as to display letters between a youthful Trump and an aging Nixon during the 1980s. It seems the foundation views the two presidents as part of the same shared mission to overthrow the Franklins and their deep state counterparts, which is probably why they...
this is what Roger Stone is, this dude's buddy, like this author of this book. These are Nixonites. These are what you can call the modern Republican Party, and have been, easily beyond my entire life, obviously. But this is the Republican Party underneath it all. And it is, the irony is that, again, all of it is, instead of presuming that they're hypocritical, understand that this is how they view things because this is what they themselves are doing. The Republican Party isn't the people in the front. There's a deep Republican state party kind of thing going on where the people behind it, the people pushing things, you've never heard the names of, and that's intentional. And they go out of their way to make that the case. The people in front are figureheads and always have been. That's why we have
or the low functioning billionaires.
Yeah.
The ones that are actually too stupid to have the amount of money that they do. Like the idea, for example, and he even articulates exactly why this is stupid. Elon Musk went on Joe Rogan and he's like, I'm worried about people assassinating me. It's like, well, you wouldn't if you acted like all of the other billionaires and stopped being a moron and putting a giant fucking target on your back. Why are you standing in the Oval Office, you idiot? Who's that helping? It's so dumb.
It is. And it's, again, their modus operandi. This is the way they've wanted to function and have functioned forever. And it shows through in how they act. It's Elon screaming and laughing on stage, where the media is handling it completely wrong. Where he's like, someone's heckling him. He goes, yes, Soros plants. Soros pays people to be here, and like that thing. He's not doing that to like mock that guy. That's how we take it. He's doing that because he thinks that's what they're doing, because that's what he's doing. He's paying people to be places. And he is open about it too. If you haven't noticed, like, he's open about it, and it's incredibly scammy. I know I posted it just real quick. I kind of want to diverge while we're here. Musk gave away $1 million on stage. Lo and behold, it was, again, the second time, by the way, the chair of the state's college Republicans. Isn't that such a weird coincidence that Elon Musk's $1 million ended up in the hands of another head of a state's college Republicans? Because it's supposed to be sweepstakes, but they can't. They had to pick beforehand in order to make it not legal. So it's all a show, but he's acting like it's not. You could win $1 million if you do X, as he says over and over, but you can't. And this setup is fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy to consider it this way. But this is what he thinks he believes Democrats are doing. And that was Nixon's jam. He basically was doing the things.
They also, to be fair, they think that George Soros, a guy who named his foundation after a book by Karl Popper in which he attacks Karl Marx, is spreading money to spread Marxism. So it's just nuts. Like, these people don't live on Earth.
Well, it's because he's putting money into his position and what he wants to see, and he presumes that that, again, because he doesn't see the gradient of divisions and power structures and the way things work, it's you're either with me or against me mentality, the Republicans. And so if you're not giving us money, you must be giving money to our mortal enemies instead of the middle of the road pathetic shit that George Soros actually gives money to.
Well, I've thought about this for a little while, and it's like when a normie who has a job and has a family, important, has relationships, important, has people in their lives that they value, important, gets hypnotized by like Twitter debates, and they spend hours of their lives just okay. There's people on the internet and they're wrong, and I need to beat them. When people get into that mode, people tell them to go outside and touch grass, and they do that, and they feel better. But what if, hypothetically, you didn't have anybody like that in your life, and you were deluded into the idea that you arguing with people on Twitter, actually, that's really powerful because you're a really powerful and important person that people respond to, and you're just there constantly. But good news, you can afford all the most expensive drugs and massages and hookers and everything to make sure that you never feel physically miserable as a result, so that you never actually get out of that rush. You never actually break out of that. And that's just your existence now, is you're just glued in forever.
Well, and it's also how you see those opponents is also part of that, because when you don't interact with normal people as a thing, and you go online and you're arguing with someone, the presumption of what you deal with is that the people you deal with are like the people you deal with, which sounds tautological. It kind of is. But instead of like, if we actually could watch internet arguments and see that they're between a guy who owns, for example, multiple billions of dollars and a dude living in his car, and he's screaming at the guy who's living in his car, or the husband who works 2 jobs, or the guy on disability, like these are not, he sees these as like equal footing, and we all put that's the idea of Twitter, is that everyone's an equal, but they're not. And all of their reality, all of the uniqueness of what makes them is removed, except for the good things they want to put in their profile. No one ever puts the bad things. And so we don't see what actually these arguments are in the real world. We position them as we expect them to be, and they refill that backwards in. It's really fucking gross. It's one of the reasons that I'm so glad social media is dying as a thing, and I will continue to be glad. It's the worst thing that's ever happened. I mean,
the Nixon Foundation,
it's up there,
appears to be cementing this with its forthcoming documentary, simply titled Nixon, that draws on the similarities between the Nixon years and our current domestic polarization. Did you ever see that really bad Oliver Stone Nixon movie, by the way?
The movie called Nixon, which I thought the first time I read this, I was like, what year is it?
I know.
That's all I could think.
The one where they got, you know who I would get to play Richard Nixon? Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, I mean,
not Dan Aykroyd, which would actually be the appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, you get Anthony Hopkins because you're Oliver Stone, and you can have anyone in. I mean, I would want to work with Anthony Hopkins. I would. But yeah, it's
Nixon. Like, really?
Look, Oliver Stone has, we'll just say, issues for how he views a very particular time in American history, and has a, I would say, conspiracy brained mentality when it comes to like the deep state as a concept. It's one of the things that causes him to have a lot of takes that are yikesy, very closely at least. But also very good stuff at the same time. So
Nixon was bad. Nixon
was awful.
The cinematography in Nixon was bad. Stuff would just, there's this one scene that just sticks in my brain. It's when he goes to see the CIA director with Bob Cushman. They walk in, and then he introduces himself, says, "My friend's calling Mr. President, Social Island." He walks away, and then all of a sudden everyone's in different locations. "Arrange for coffee, General Cushman." They're all standing there glaring at him.
It's a failure in editing. It's a failure in editing.
But it's consistent throughout. They have him like, sit down with me. Shit, my brain's not working. What's his name? Fat guy. Power is the ultimate aphrodisiac.
Kissinger.
Kissinger. Thank you.
And Paul Sorvino plays him, right?
Kissinger for a moment.
Paul Sorvino's playing him. Who does, to be fair,
he was good.
He does a good Kissinger.
He was actually pretty good as Kissinger. What was terrible though, or hilarious, was "Come pray with me, Kissinger," just kneeling. It's like, what the hell, man? Who wrote this? I'm sorry.
I mean,
it was so bad.
Oliver Stone did, and again, he's hacky, and then sometimes great, and then hacky. It is what it is.
Anyways, so they're remaking it.
They're making a documentary, actually. This is a documentary that's literally paid for by the Nixon Foundation.
Yes.
So it'll be just as good as anything else that these fucking hacks have done. It'll probably star Kevin Sorbo in some way. That's what these people do. It's a lot. These people are a lot.
Coming out in 2025 this year, the trailer depicts Nixon as a figure of unity who offered stability during a turbulent, divided era. Through this lens, Nixon comes across as a noble, selfless statesman trying to wrestle the elites into submission. It's like the Atlas Shrugged movie. His unabated quest for power is transformed into an earnest mission to even the score for America's beleaguered Orthogonians. His corruption exaggerated by the enemies who feed on conflict. In this hall of funhouse mirrors, history becomes a weapon of mass deception, and not for the first time.
I'm just real quick.
Yeah.
Just because it's live, I'm just going to take a second because this is.
They're great American.
I don't know if you saw the fucking
and car companies
thumbnail.
And be able to come attend my shows and give them a fair ticket price. I can't control that right now, so hopefully this is a step to
this Kid Rock
really be able to make that happen. I know a lot of artists and a lot of fans who love concerts and music are going to be very appreciative of you taking this
And I
action,
think
sir.
Bob is more interested in the fans. And
I want to know what he's signed. He's
having to pay
fucking
crazy. I'm going to sign it now, and maybe I'll ask you, Will, to explain a little bit of the thing that is for the good of a lot of people, including, in particular, the public, and having to do with ticket
What is he
sales and
fucking
scalping
signing?
and all of the gouging that you have been reading about. That's gotten worse and
This
worse
will be
with time.
fascinating if he does something.
They're pledging allegiance to
And
the
I
God
didn't
of
know too
rock.
much about it, but I checked it out, and it is a big problem. And I think you've been trying to get this done for 20 years or something. He said Trump got it done in 2 weeks. But we came up with a very serious EO, and I'm going to sign it now, and maybe I'll ask you, Will, to explain a little bit about it, please.
Of course, sir. So this is an executive order, as you said, that deals with the ticket
In the presence of Kid Rock.
For fans of live entertainment and for entertainers as well. The ticket reselling industry has become a huge issue. These people use bots and computer algorithms to buy up huge blocks of tickets and then jack up the price so that fans of live entertainers like Mr. Ritchie, I almost called him Mr. Rock, don't have access to concerts the way that they should. And when they do, it's at exorbitantly high prices. So what this executive order does, it charges the FTC and the Department of Justice with rigorously enforcing laws on the books in collaboration
Why is he there?
with state attorneys general that have power over consumer protection.
Let's enforce the laws that we have. Thank you.
And other people who have the power to really crack down on this issue so that entertainers and fans won't be subject to
There's
these abusive...
nothing, just so you know, scalping's not illegal. Like, as a thing, it's just not. Buying tickets and then reselling them for a higher price is like literally just capitalism. And I have no idea what he thinks he's doing with this.
illegal practices.
Good. Thank you very much.
He doesn't. He has celebrities just coming to him with shit. He just doesn't.
Yeah, anybody
follow
who's,
through with
it
the
doesn't
long
matter
term.
with politics. First off, thank you, Mr. President.
They
This is
legitimately
happening
have no idea what they're
at
doing.
lightning speed.
Nope.
Bots go in. they're
They
automated,
don't
so
know what
you're
they're
gonna see
doing
their
at
company,
all at any step of the way. And I think what's happening
You
is
might
anybody
know.
who tells them,
No,
hey,
well, there's reasons.
yeah, this thing you told us to do. Yeah, either A, we're already doing it, or B, this doesn't make any sense. They're just firing them.
He just puts forward the idea that there are companies behind it. Yes, because it's not illegal in any state to do this, to buy tickets and resell them. If I have tickets to a show, I can resell them. To tell people that they're not allowed to resell their tickets,
They're not allowed to sell your property.
is fucking going to be hilarious. The problem
If you're concerned about it, if a ticket vendor is concerned about that, they can tie a ticket to an ID and make it so that only this person with this proof of ID can use this ticket. Boom. That's also perfectly legal. Nothing's stopping you. Nothing's stopping you at all. Steam does that. Like, it's... Ugh.
Titan, I'm going to need a reason to believe it's not only a handful of states that have some odd laws. You're going to have to send me something.
Is scalping illegal? Hang on. Scalping sports tickets in the U.S.
Thank you very much.
Legal, but scalping PS5s. Hang on. Wait. Ticket scalping is only illegal when it's done on the event's grounds, according to some people.
I know New York City has ordinances and rules around licenses. You have to have a license to resell because people were basically faking tickets for a long time, so they have that. Mm-hmm. That's not saying it's not illegal to resell, because again, but I guess the definition of scalping as a thing.
Okay, here we go. Hang on, slow down. So this is what Wikipedia says. In the United States, ticket resale is a $5 billion industry. Ticket resale on the premises of the event, including adjacent parking lots that are officially part of the facility, may be prohibited by law. The laws vary from state to state, but the majority of U.S. states do not have laws in place to limit the value placed on the resale amount of event tickets or where and how these tickets should be sold. Ticket resellers may conduct business on nearby sidewalks or advertise through newspaper ads or ticket brokers. New York state law permits prices above face value only by the greater of $5 or 10%. Some U.S. states and venues encourage a designated area for resellers to stand in, on, or near the premises, and other states and venues prohibit ticket resale altogether. Resale laws, policies, and practices are generally decided, practiced, and governed at the local or even venue level in the U.S., and such laws and or interpretations are not currently generalized at a national level. Another issue in the U.S. is that since ticketing laws vary by state, many ticket resellers use a loophole and sell their tickets outside of the state for an event. So it's not strictly speaking illegal. There are like restrictions on it, and sometimes fairly arbitrary restrictions on it depending on the state. But it seems like for the most part, it's just a few states that actually have like really firm caps on how much you can resell a ticket for. And even then, they do allow you to resell it for more. They just give you an increase of, let's see. New York state law permits prices above face value only by the greater of $5 or 10%. That would be pretty prohibitive. You wouldn't make much money off that.
And again, this is where you get into the, like, okay, so great. In New York they have, but in like Topeka, in Kansas City, in Denver, like these are cities who have, like, this does nothing. One, there's no federal rules at all. Like let's just stop there for a second. I don't believe there's any federal laws or anything that has to do with this.
Well, it says specifically that they aren't generalized at the national level. It's only by state.
Yeah. So again, it's like, and a sure shot, I think it has my point. The business model itself is the thing, and it's a challenge because what used to happen back in the day is there wasn't really more people than seats, which is a thing that happens in a lot of these places now. I remember camping out for shows, showing up on the first day of tickets going for sale, where you had to actually sit at the box office. You know, this was the 90s and early 2000s. We didn't, like, the internet buying tickets wasn't really a thing. You certainly didn't have like StubHub and all that other shit. The moment that you get to that point where it's the same as Zillow, the same as Airbnb, where it is a generalized national thing, the challenge becomes that you don't have people who are only local. When I'm only local and it's only local people who can do anything to affect ticket prices, you actually have to stand in line to buy tickets, and then you actually have to go somewhere and do a thing. It's only physically there. You don't have what is the worst part that StubHub has become, which is a buy and sell, like, NFT realm. And they don't talk about it like that, but people are buying and selling on StubHub with no intention of actually giving a shit about actually making money off of that or selling it to someone who's going, but literally because they know they can buy a ticket and then resell it later. And so it's like a mini stock market that's short term. It's that's fucked up. But again, this is the business model of these guys that could be fixed. This could be fixed, but it's got to be fixed by the companies. This can't be as a thing. It can't go more than that. I don't foresee, like, I don't even understand. And yeah, the fact that Kid Rock is in the fucking White House is wild to me on top of it. Fuck.
Who sells these tickets? It's the scalpers. It's these bots.
Shall we press on with the article?
Automated, so.
Yeah, we'll just go back. Sorry, please continue.
That's okay. I forgive you. Throughout Trump's run as the most dangerous man in America, the vile precedents set by Nixon as well as Reagan and Bush were reworked into a far more favorable light. Trump made all of them look innocent by comparison. However, focusing more on the contrasts and the continuity may have been crucial in bringing us to this demented juncture. Most urgently, the rehabilitation of Nixon may become a blueprint for Trump's defenders to rewrite his own legacy. Indeed, the soon-to-be 47th president may owe his re-election in part to the pessimism that Nixon, Watergate, and his new apologists have engendered. If we fail to consider this context of how figures like Nixon brought us to this precipice, then maybe it won't ever be illegal if the president commits a crime. Maybe down the line, Trump, just like Nixon, could prove another precedent for something even more sinister. This aged like wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that rehabilitation, I think.
Computer nerd here. Hey Brooks, what chip on that Mobo is critical to your development?
Are you speaking?
I got a notice. You didn't hear it. Apologies. We got a chat.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, a dono. Asking me what chip I have. It's the 3990X Threadripper. So that's a.
Can you hear that dog, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
I mean, I can. I don't know if it's making it out through them. Oh, it is for sure making it out to them.
Yeah. He's been going nuts lately. We have to talk to him about it.
Poor pup.
Oh, he's a sweet dog. He just won't shut up when I'm working. Almost exclusively, it feels like.
So if you come visit, I have these wonderful soundproof cloths that are incredibly heavy, and you actually just secure them to your ceiling. You won't hear shit again.
Really?
Yeah. I've got 4 or 5 extras.
I'm very disturbed that you have those in such abundance, Brooks. I'm not going to ask any further questions.
It's sound absorption for rooms that need it. This room doesn't need it because I've got all the shit. Yeah. I was in a very small closet when I was first doing DGQC and stuff, and it was super echoey awful.
No secrets in that room. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
It is for the slaughter room, yes. Fucking this Nixon shit, man. We saw this with Bush, and I think that they're trying to do it also with Nixon is fascinating to me. Right?
Well, I mean, it's more thematic with Nixon. Like, it's more appropriate. I guess, like, for me, it's like the strangest thing about this is just how unnecessary it all is. Because it really does seem like it's one way. Because here's the thing. The kind of person who's going to draw a negative comparison between Trump and Nixon is not the kind of person who's going to be convinced by this. And the kind of person who is okay with Trump doing what he's doing is not going to be deterred by it being compared to Nixon negatively. So the only people who benefit from this are the fucking weirdos of the Nixon Foundation. And that's it. So all of this is completely meaningless except in this one key respect. It's part of a broad. You mentioned Kevin Sorbo. It's like when
I mentioned Hercules.
It's like when the God's Not Dead movie came out. And what's the purpose of that movie? The purpose of that movie is, golly gee, look, Christians with a victim complex have a movie. We're pushing back, and it's literally just a part of the texture of sort of culture war media that has absolutely no actual purpose as a unit. It's just meant to be a part of the landscape. There's this here, this here, this here, and that's it.
I agree. I also think there's with the wrapping of Nixon and the attempt to sort of soften what he was and how he was as a president, just like there was with Bush, especially actually under Obama.
I call him Kevin Sorbo. Sorry, God.
It does. No one cares. He doesn't. It's fine.
Kevin Sorbo. Sorry,
he's not a person who cares about pronouns. We shouldn't care about his. The way that sort of he works as a thing when you talk about Nixon is he's a man wrapped in all these bad behaviors, and he said a lot of really racist shit, a lot of really awful shit, and despotic shit. Like, we have it on tapes. You can literally hear him saying it, and also, he was a pretty shitty president. All of that kind of becomes, as you make him tolerable, it's also making the things he did tolerable. The despotism, the anger, the frustration, and all that. And I think that's their goal, is ultimately to push towards that. Does that make sense?
It does. You want to see something really horrible? I'm just looking at Kevin Sorbo's Wikipedia page randomly. Because I haven't paid attention to this guy since. Was he an Atlas Shrugged? He might have been an Atlas Shrugged. That would be his kind of thing. Doesn't look like it. He published a book in 2023 entitled The Test of Lionhood, which explores the theme of masculinity from a Christian perspective for young boys as part of a larger fight in defense of the virtues of masculinity, which he says are being eroded in Hollywood and in society at large. I kind of want to see how bad this thing is.
I mean, I can't imagine it's wonderful, given that he's the guy who, my favorite acting moment of all time is where he read the emotional cue out as if it was dialogue, screaming disappointed when he was supposed to look disappointed. He's that guy, and he's kind of only known for being hunky guy, right? Like, that's his thing.
Well, you remember what he said after, because when Passion of the Christ came out, his defense of like people who were saying that it was anti-Semitic was, well, you did kill Jesus though.
Yeah.
It's like
it was to double down on the whole thing. He is a horrifying person. He is. And I don't know if you've watched all of his movies. He's fantastic. Like his films are fantastic in that total lack of self-awareness, yet he somehow is sort of self-aware thing as he's constantly doing it. Like God's Not Dead is really, really, really bad, but Let There Be Light is probably my favorite of his Christian propaganda films, where he plays again. He's the atheist.
He played in God's Not Dead. I don't think he produced it. I think he was just in it.
Well, but he was in this too, and he plays the atheist who's converted. That's what he likes. That he does that thing, and it is it's one where the atheist has an after-death experience that convinces him. It is fucking amazing. Like, I mean, it's apparently how he sees, or they see, the afterlife. It's fucking nuts. He's in a lot of those. He's in a lot of nutcase fucking films. I like it. I like bad films, but I'm awful that way. I don't know.
And as punishment for your life of sin, you are now trapped for eternity in a white cloudy abyss with no discernible geographic or material features, and you can't die.
Did you see Reagan? Reagan was last year.
No.
Which is, I mean, he's in that, and that's Dennis Quaid playing Ronald Reagan, trying to revamp that image and make him this hyper-Christian.
Yeah, I know. Dennis Quaid.
Which is, I see this, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I see him in Substance, and he plays a character that is literally critical of Reagan, that is the Reagan character.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, what the fuck, dude?
I'm starting to wonder if all of these Hollywood people are just in it for the money, Brooks.
No. Yes. Was there another Left Behind movie after the last one? The last one was the Antichrist one, right? Which is awesome.
There have been several. Hang on.
Let's go through.
They did that new one with Nicolas Cage, but there was an earlier one.
Left Behind. That one with Nicolas Cage was the big attempt to reboot it. But
the older one was with what's his name? It had somebody I remember from.
Will we get copyright strike for watching trailers? Probably.
It had Kirk Cameron in it. It had Kirk Cameron. That's who it was. I remembered.
Yeah, he was in the first one. That's right.
Yeah, that was weird.
What visual can I have? We're just gonna fucking go to IMDb.
You're crackling again, by the way.
Of course I am. Of course.
We can't watch trailers, by the way.
I'm not going to.
I wouldn't do it. You freaking are. You always do that.
No.
Hey, Sunday, let's watch this copyrighted media on stream. Okay.
Well, I do.
I don't have rent to pay. That's fine. Sure.
Left Behind was crazy. The Nicolas Cage one where they tried to like make it more mainstream, because that was an attempt for them to bring it towards, like, when I say mainstream, I mean, they had like real actors, real actresses. It wasn't just, solely for that one audience. Yeah. And the rest of the Left Behind series, they didn't do that. Like the rest of the movies after that, because there's the first one with Kirk Cameron's 2000. The 2014 reboot with Nicolas Cage was like high budget. And then I love this one. This is probably my favorite one, which is The Antichrist, which is amazing.
A Rise of the Antichrist from 2023. Oh, that's got Kevin Sorbo again.
It's Kevin Sorbo. Yeah, where he plays the converted atheist thing.
Oh, and it's got that guy. Oh, I love that casting. I forgot about that. I love that.
He's one of
I love that
those
Neil
guys.
McDonough casting. It's like, hey, we need to cast someone who's this super charismatic manipulator. Let's pick the most evil-looking man we can, because that's subtlety for these people.
Yeah, and the people who are in it, it's like, oh God.
Like, the devil comes as an angel of light. Who will we cast as the devil?
Yeah, we'll cast the evil-looking person who's always in that role.
Yes. That's an expensive cast.
It is not a cheap one. I like the quotes. Chloe, well, Captain Steele, it's good to see you. Why, like that's in the quote. Captain, are you aware that we did not encourage unkempt hair for our pilots? Are you not? Unkempt? I just showered last week. And this can't be a quote from the movie. And these pants, those aren't standard issue, are they? Oh, and the next time we meet, I want to see shine on those feet. I'll see what I can do. You look great, Dad. Like
if somebody like who's the guy who did Starship Troopers? If somebody like who did that with this series, I think it could be something brilliant. But it is still the same thing, and they're doing it seriously.
Over and over and over. Over and over and over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck. What a thing, man. These people are a thing. Sort of. I'm not playing a trailer.
Like, not even Mads
Mikkelsen. I'm not playing a trailer. It's okay. I'm not playing a trailer.
Neil McDonough, not like just. I don't think Mads Mikkelsen would accept that role. Although, to be fair, although he kind of did with Grindelwald. That's the closest analogy I can think of as a Harry Potter movie.
Yeah, these people are. It's a whole industry unto itself now. This Christian film.
Just bad Christian films that nobody likes.
And they're always about them being in a deeply persecuted position. They reinforce that worldview, and also that they're always right, that they're always correct, that there is no worry. It's masturbatory to an extraordinary level.
I just can't just imagine the arrogance it takes to like make a film about a student, just also the pettiness. Totally poning a philosophy professor because you've never seen a philosophy professor in your life in the flesh. And the philosophy professor is like, okay, you do ever convince me that God doesn't exist, by the end of class wins. Like, what? That's not what happens in philosophy classes, which even you would think even these people would know that. It's bizarre.
He was in 13 movies and one TV show with 8 episodes in 2024 alone, Kevin Sorbo. I'm not sure that he has, it explains a lot, but I'm not sure anyone can do that and have even a slightly effective performance in it.
You know what you'll never see? You'll never see a Christian movie with the confidence to have the main character get convinced that God doesn't exist, but still give to the poor. You notice that? Like, that would be a strong statement. I would have respect for that. But no, it's always, look, these very attractive, very well-dressed, well put together, make-up, privileged people were right, and they beat those dirty, rotten liberals who hate Christmas.
How did I miss this movie?
Benzo is my favorite.
What the fuck, man?
Oh,
he plays Leonardo Riggio in it, which is, I'm sure, a major role. Are there good quotes? No, there are not. Oh, here it is. The quote from Jeff Bezos to Leonardo Regione, which is Kevin Sorbo. "You are the past. I am the future." That's a quote from this movie, apparently. That's great. Here's The Pastor, another of Kevin Sorbo's films. He plays a detective in it.
Why does he always look so wet? He always looks so wet.
He's always baptizing people. Like he just stops baptizing to go do a scene and then he goes right back to it. I'm assuming.
God, look at those box. Look at that box there. That is awful. God's here in what looks like a radioactive chamber.
God's here.
Don't open. We were so wrong. Some things should never be opened. That's what that looks like to me.
There's a great show called White Wall. I highly recommend it. Foreign TV show, sci-fi, really good high concept. Just came to mind when you said that. In Granbury, Texas, firefighter Jack Gilmore makes holiday memories with his son and not knowingly shares a final kiss with his wife. But when a runaway teen's car hits his wife's car, Jack grapples with his faith and the idea of forgiveness. Aww. Taglines: A Fireman's Forgiveness. I wonder what the film's about. Like, it's the entire plot.
What's the ethnicity of the driver? Just making sure.
Ooh, that's actually really worth finding out. Let's see. Who would be the driver would be the question. It would be the Maddie Bentley, CJ, maybe the daughter.
I don't want to impute them with something that they didn't do. I'm just saying. I
think it's a safe bet, actually. But yeah. Well, they have the girl on the poster. I think that's her.
Oh, is it?
The runaway teen driver, I would guess. And that would be the guy who is looks in profile like John Cena if he didn't take steroids. And then whoever that is his wife, apparently. And here's the guy again who looks like Bruce Willis. That looks like Bruce Willis. I don't know. That's terrible.
Yeah, but that's just because Bruce Willis looks like every bald man with wrinkles around his eyes.
He does get to own that. That's true. Man, these are wonderful films. I love it. I love these films. I find these fascinating. I download the documentaries most. What's his name? The guy who did the 2000 Mules documentary. He's the guy who was convicted of fucking fraud. Dinesh D'Souza.
Yeah, okay. I know.
Who's
I
like
know
one of
that
the
name.
just
I didn't know
one of the
was.
worst people. He's terrible. But Dinesh.
Kevin Sorbo recently said the left can't make movies. TF.
Thank you for that. Got a link for that? That's.
I'm now searching for that.
Or the left can't make movies because Trump won't let them. Yeah.
Oh my God. He did. He did. He fucking said
God's Not Dead star says the left can't make movies.
He uses Snow White clip to claim the left can't make movies. Yes, because Disney is the famous left. Good job.
Although that being said, that face is
that is.
It's very, very potent argument for there being a wrathful God somewhere. Dear Lord, he's looking rough.
Snow White, which I'm sure is wonderful and not a piece of shit under its own right. Have you watched any of it? The song I watched the Whistle.
I heard it was really bad.
I cannot believe how bad it is. It is. It's not as bad as we should fucking just do movie reviews now. Like, fuck news. We should just move on to movie reviews.
Honestly.
Because I got to tell you, it's the second worst musical number I've ever seen. because I also watched Amelia Perez.
Here, link it to me. I'm going to watch it. And we're going to talk about it. Okay.
Have you seen Amelia Perez?
No.
It has the single worst musical number. Like, it's almost parody level itself. With Ziegler, here it is. This is an official clip, and I feel like, would we get pinged? It's on Rotten Tomatoes. It's everywhere. This clip is passed around. God, because it's a minute long, and I'm going to send it to you. Tell me, I think we can get away with watching it. Personally.
No, we can't. We can't. Don't do it. Not worth it.
All right.
Not worth it. Not worth it.
Okay.
If MusicTube can get away with listening to music without showing it, we can talk about it. It's okay. We've told people what it is.
I can put it in the corner.
Just
not have it play.
Just don't do
it.
No,
you just need to be able to see.
Do not fuck with this.
You can have a screenshot from it.
Yeah, screenshot's fine. Just don't play it.
I'm not going to play it. I'm just going
to. Okay. I'm gonna
listen to it, and I'm just going to talk about what's happening in it while you do.
All right. I'm going to listen to it.
Whistle.
Hey, turn that off. Turn that off. You got it on the screen. Get it off the screen. Stop that.
I can have it a little bit on the screen.
Don't play it.
I'm not playing it. Relax.
Why is this Sandra Ocasio-Cortez in Snow White?
These are the dwarves. This is what they look like.
Why is Tucker Carlson in Snow White?
It's Grumpy.
Why is RFK in Snow White?
Look,
it's even got the brain work. I know it's a squirrel. Never mind.
So they sing "Whistle While You Work."
I'm not crazy though, right? Snow White looks like AOC. Like
the whole thing. Tell me I'm not wrong. This looks AI generated.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like it looks like that AI has an aesthetic, and it feels like that's the aesthetic.
Like it looks like the proportions are wrong, but also not consistent. Like they're not the same art style, but they look close enough. And there's unidentifiable globs all over the walls. Could it have been? They wouldn't.
No,
have.
I don't think so. We would have heard about it. There's too many people involved.
Hey, hang on. Let me watch this thing. Give me a sec. Calm down. Oh my God.
You talk. Sunday can't hear me right now.
She sounds like AOC. This is bothering me so much. I feel like I'm watching AOC at the average. This is what the Democratic conferences are like, aren't they?
I have a feeling. I've linked to it if others want to watch so they can see what we're talking about. It is one of the worst things that I've seen in the last year, and it's not the worst song. Amelia Perez is worth talking about in a moment, but I do want to stick on this for right now. This is the second worst song.
This is painful. Why are they CGI like that? That looks so wrong. It's like the Attack on Titan live action show, but reversed.
Yeah.
Like they're not human shaped, which they aren't supposed to be in a certain respect, but like if you're making a live action, there are people with dwarfism in the real world. If you're making a live action Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, don't turn the Seven Dwarves.
Well, they originally had, I don't know if you remember, they originally had people. I'm not joking.
Like just do the Hobbit thing. Like, what is this?
They originally had people in it, and there was an outcry because Snow White.
Wait.
Because they were multi-ethnic. I'm not joking when I say this.
Oh, so they whitewashed them.
Yeah, for the most part. And they have people with dwarfism actually playing them in the real world.
But like, there's an easy solution to this though. Make Snow White CGI. Just do a CGI movie. Like,
so
that's clearly what they want to do at this point.
This has to do with ownership of IP. And this is the particulars around it are that if they do the CGI thing straight up, and they probably should have in some way. But the goal of them making these things live action is that they're wanting to create a way for them to argue that the larger intellectual property around Snow White is not just the story, because they can't actually own the story of Snow White. It's a fable. That's how it works. And so as the story is particular, when you talk about IP, for example, Lion King, they own that instance of that thing in that style.
Yeah.
The reason they're doing these live action is so they own a broader version of it. So that way they can argue and sue people more often and then exploit more rights. It's really incredible, actually. But I sent you a picture of the original dwarves. Like that were in the,
Here, pop it
original
on the screen.
2 seconds. One sec. Let me find the original source for that one.
Brooks oversold it. No, he didn't by the look of it.
Oversold what?
Hang on.
Oversold what?
I'm assuming the thing with Snow White.
I thought it was pretty awful. I mean, if you like it, good for you. You should go see it because support this.
This is a common take from Don't worry about it.
Oh, it's saying it. Okay, that's okay.
Okay, let's see.
Yes.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought you were looking for something.
No, where's okay? So what are you looking for?
I was looking for the original sources on the behind the scenes footage of the Seven Dwarfs. And I can't find the primary source, so I'm not wanting to put it up.
No, that'll be annoying.
I know, I'm terrible.
Snow White Dwarves originally live action.
I still think it's a fascinating aesthetic for them to go for. Like, it's a hardline choice to make it look more like the thing, right?
Yeah, but
like to look more AI, to go in that direction.
Here's the weird part though, like
because it does it across the board, the entire film. Like here's the trailer. I'm not going to play it.
Yeah,
I'm just showing it as a thing.
You just did though. I heard that, but go on.
The sound doesn't matter. That doesn't matter.
The sound absolutely matters. All of it matters. They detect it by algorithm. It doesn't matter how much you use. They'll get a second of it.
Sure. Anyway, the whole thing has a just overall cinematic AI look that looks like AI generated videos are today.
Yep.
Like it's very confusing almost.
Well, that's the key. It doesn't look like a human brain could come up with the vision for this because it's literally unintelligible. These stills, it's actually very hard to see what's happening. Like the scene doesn't end. There's no foreground and background. It's just a like it's like cinematography. Like how would you storyboard this? It looks awful. It looks like endlessly complex in the way that AI generated images tend to be because there's no attention paid to this is the subject of the image because an intelligent conscious being made this thing. It's just that's why a part of me wonders like was there actually AI used in this, or at the very least used at the level of like the composition, maybe not even known to the people who were directing it. I have no idea, but it looks very strange.
It is a very odd look, but to mention in comparison to the other film that I'm not going to necessarily put anything on screen because it's not, the visuals don't do it. It's Zoe Saldana or random things, but there is I sent you just a clip. It's a story of a trans main character kind of coming to grips with themselves, which you would think, oh, that sounds great. Except that they chose a cartel boss who's like genuinely an unforgivably awful human being. And it turns out is played by a pretty awful, unforgiving human being, as an actress. And the entire thing is a musical.
Who's an unforgivable human being?
The actress who plays, she said some pretty
Zoe
awful
Saldana?
shit.
Really? What did she do?
Not Zoe. Zoe is amazing. I didn't say Zoe. Zoe's not the trans character.
Oh, okay.
No, Zoe's amazing. Zoe's
who's
a wonderful, warm, odd person, but amazing. The actress, one second.
The top comment is, as a trans person, this is probably the worst thing I've ever seen. Yeah.
Oh, it is that God. It is that. we're just gonna go right into a great article that kind of opens with the title that I think gets it across. Amelia Perez's Carla Sofia Gascon is defending herself in the wildest way. I'm less racist than Gandhi, is how she defended herself.
I mean, life goals, I guess. Have you read Gandhi before? He wrote to Hitler, my friend. Like, yeah.
She thinks Islam is, quote, deeply disgusting. George Floyd was a drug-addicted swindler. And the last Oscars ceremony, she said, I don't know if I'm watching Afro-Korean Festival, a Black Lives Matter demonstration, or the 8 million International Women's Day. She's just kind of awful as a person.
Gascon considers herself Mexican by adoption, having lived and worked in Mexico for many years. Fascinating.
She is, and whatever that is, she's kind of gross. Just the movie unto itself, because again, I don't really give a shit. That's one thing. But like, fuck, I don't, there's no need to judge that. The film is horrifying. The character is a ex-crime boss lord, cartel leader who has done horrifying things. And for some reason, we are supposed to really care about this person's transition, who in that transition never changes or does anything and kind of stays kind of a piece of shit. And also they sing songs about switching penises to vaginas. And they I think it's, I sent you the link. Did you watch it Sunday?
The song? Yes, I did. And it's
the movie's filled with that.
This is psychic violence.
It is actually. Psychic violence is a good way to put it.
It is a rare and refined degree of cringe that I have not experienced in a long time.
It is hard to describe unless you've had a chance to see it. But
like it's this perfect sweet spot of like obviously expensively and professionally done, and yet somehow just awful. Like if a cult were to try and make a Disney movie with $1 billion budget. That's how I would describe it.
Allow me to do a dramatic reading of the song. It is between the doctor who's going to do the surgery and Zoe Saldana.
Yeah.
And it opens, hello, nice to meet you. I'd like to know about sex change operation. This is not broken English. This is just what it says. I see. Man to woman, woman to man. Man to woman. From penis to vagina, which is the chorus, by the way. Is it for you? Me, no. What'd you like to know about it, madam? I want to know it all. What's the protocol? The techniques and the risks. How many operations? How much time do you need? Mammoplasty? And they cheered. Yes. Vaginoplasty? Yes. It's like a fucking musical.
Okay, before
this is the most insane shit.
I know, I heard it. So before we were talking about the Snow White one, this looks like AI. With this one, I'm gonna say I feel like ChatGPT would have done a better job.
The outro goes, a man to a woman to a man. A man to a woman to a man. Vaginoplasty makes this macho man stand. That's a lyric someone wrote, and it's...
A human wrote that.
A human wrote this. This is the song. This is a thing. Feel free to listen to it.
No, I'm good, actually. I'm not going...
Oh, no, I'm just sharing it with everyone.
Yeah, don't tell them to do that.
Oh, yeah, go do that. It's pretty fucking great.
Just so you know, encouraging self-harm is actually against YouTube's TOS. Don't do that.
It is a unique, awful film. And again, at no point do they ever do any actual redemption. You never understand why Zoe Saldana gives a shit about this or like tries to help this person, because they're, again, one of the more repulsive like humans in the film. They are portrayed as that. Who's like,
here's another quote from her. She tweeted about whether the Oscars had become an Afro-Korean festival. That's fascinating.
That's great.
That is a fascinating thing to tweet. It's just, oh, God.
Yeah.
And you said she was like she was what, a cartel
boss. I believe
and
cartel boss.
This was known during the production of this film.
No. The main character in the film is a cartel boss.
Oh, I see.
That's who this awful racist in the real world. This trans woman's a racist in the real world who hates Islam.
Okay, but she's not a cartel boss in the real world.
She's not a cartel boss. No.
Okay, that's where I was confused.
In the movie, she plays a cartel boss who transitions to a woman and is kind of like genuinely unforgivable.
Well, yeah, because they put people into mass graves. It's like,
but that's
it's like if at the end of Breaking Bad, after he's gotten all those people, actually no, right after, not at the end of Breaking Bad, right in the middle, after you learned that Walt's given a kid ricin as part of his coup against Gus Fring, and then all of a sudden he comes out as gay, and this is like a touching moment, and that's just the focus of the rest of the series. Just him coping with the fact of his new identity. It's just like, oh. I'm just like, people made this. How do you make this? Like, if I can't actually imagine being Zoe Saldana, but if I was a reputable actor with a career that is alive and well in the future, and I was in that, I would be like, I don't know.
Amelia Perez is really unique. And it's one of those things that I think as people talk about it or there's conversations around it, it's like you end up in that place where people think this is what the left or trans representation is. And this is one of those things where it's like when they make a serial killer in a movie gay and they go, hey, well, I mean, what do you want? Gay representation. It's like, come on, guys. This ain't the thing.
Apparently 72% of Rotten Tomato critic reviews are positive.
Yeah. It is very depressing.
What's the audience score?
Let's find out.
The worst part about it is going to be, this is the trans agenda. That's what it's going to be.
72 to 16%.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Let's go read a positive review. Amelia Perez is a film that thrives on contradiction, grave yet surreal, profound yet playful. It is both an ambitious work of reinvention and a narrative balancing act that occasionally wobbles under its sheer complexity. A negative review. The film is a preposterous nightmare of first world self-regard. I mean, that's
pretty well put, actually.
It's the entire review. That's great. A very fine, skillfully directed musical drama. It has the musical scenes, like the one I was just talking about, happen in like an impossibly built hospital surgery room.
It looks like one of the facilities from Resident Evil.
But everyone's on the beds singing, and they like sit up and they go, yes, like in gowns as they're about to go through the surgery.
It's like that. It's like that scene from Night Terrors from TNG when Dr. Crusher's in the morgue, and all of a sudden she turns around and all the corpses sit up. It's.
Have you watched Brave New World, the new series, this new Star Trek series?
I saw the musical one. I haven't seen
the musical one is the one I want to talk about. Like, because it's stupid.
That was a good musical number.
It was really fun,
funny.
but it knows what it is.
Yes.
And it was silly and self-aware. This had that same exact energy without the self-awareness, but about transitional surgery and the difficulty of it, which seems beyond out of touch to me. It's really hard to sort of like even conceptualize this. This is like if the Rocky Horror Picture Show was in Spanish and got 13 Oscar nominations. That is a fucking review someone wrote. How let me ask, as an old person, how do you kids view Rocky Horror Picture when it comes to like queer acceptance or trans acceptance and things like that? Because it's a question I've been curious about for some time. Because Rocky Horror I grew up with and I like went to a ton and dressed up for, and it's great. But I'm always curious because it is, we'll say, old timey. Have you even seen it? You haven't even seen it, have you?
I've seen bits and pieces. I know Tim Curry from it, so I know what you're talking about. But if I did see like any part of it, it would have been decades ago.
Probably.
I mean, it was decades.
I'm just curious because it's
well, a decade and a half old.
Yeah, it's just a super fun movie, but I think Anthromarx I think hits it. There's this edge of it's the movie in the same way that I don't know, back in the day people would use the movie Dead Presidents, for example, to like the white person who's I've seen Dead Presidents, I've seen these movies, I get the black experience, and I know that it's used for that, where people are like, look, I love that movie. I love Rocky Horror. Of course I'm not anti-gay. Like there's kind of that side to it. It is very, it's very, I'm just curious. I'm just curious, I guess. Because
the story centers on a young engaged couple whose car breaks down in the rain near a castle where they search for help. The castle is occupied by strangers in elaborate costumes holding a party. Then they meet the head of the house, Dr. Frankenfurter, an apparently mad scientist and alien transvestite from the planet Transsexual in the galaxy of Transylvania, who creates a living muscle man named Rocky. I don't remember any of this.
That's okay.
I would have been too young.
One of the best moments of the Drew Carey show, of all things, was when he and his friends are going to Rocky Horror, but the theater's been taken over by Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, and they have a dance-off about it. It's just great. I don't give a shit. It was a fucking great scene. But it's that kind of, it was very counterculture at the time. I know it's not anymore because it's hardly discursive and it's hardly breaking molds now, but I'm always curious about that. It was a good time.
I can't think of any good movies that are coming out right now. Except there's a Neuromancer series apparently coming out soon on Apple, which I'm terrified of, given what they did to Foundation.
You're not excited for Minecraft?
I'm going to watch it.
I'm going to have to watch it.
I'm going to watch it.
I'm going to have to sit through it like I did with Mario.
At least Jack Black is sort of engaging in shitty movies.
He has moments. He has moments.
Like he was kind of the highlight of the Super Mario movie. Was just so unimaginative. My
kid loves it.
There was so much opportunity to do something like clever with it, and they just, you know what they did? They did that shitty thing that video game inspired movies do, which is how do we represent the mechanics? And you don't need to. You treat the mechanics as the representation, and you use the setting as the basis of a story, and you do clever things to make it sort of work. Not how can we create a coherent universe in which the mechanics of an NES game with abstract objects that are used as items in the world, how can we turn that into a Game of Thrones type cohesive universe with concrete geography and geostrategic like real? It's like you don't. You know why the Avengers 1 worked as a movie, even though it was so badly written and so shitty? It's because they just ignored all of that and just had, here's the funny characters doing the things you like, and that's it. And it was stupid.
I have a recommendation.
What's
it's
that?
Newer. Little multi-part TV season thing, like BBC, HBO, kind of 4 episodes. Adolescence. Came out, I think, a week or 2 ago. It's on screen too. It is a masterpiece of television. And I don't mean that lightly in the way of like, oh, look, it's like, no, it's what it is, how it's filmed. Like from a pure craft perspective, all 4 episodes are single shot.
Oh, Stephen Graham, I like that guy.
He's great. Yeah,
he's
I like
great in
Dogs. I like
he's great in bad movies.
And
he's great in everything.
the lead actor from a bunch of my favorite British moments too. He's great.
He's one of the only good things about Boardwalk Empire.
All these people are fantastic, but everyone in it is wonderful. Stephen Graham, who plays the main character all the way through, everyone is really great, and it is not what you think as you kind of go through. It is ostensibly about a violent crime that takes place, and the son is arrested for it. All 4 episodes, again, are single shot takes. The entire thing. Like one camera movement. There's probably edits. They probably fake it, but there is no cuts that are visible in all 4 episodes. And because of that, it's not what you're used to in terms of like a crime drama or a courtroom drama that follows a bunch of different pieces. Instead, it is sort of about these 4 single 50-minute periods throughout the occurrences after this thing happens. And it's, I found it incredibly powerful, having been through sort of in various ways, things like what is happening in there. Very, very good. It's very good. I just cannot recommend it enough. I found Adolescence amazing. Like it's top of my list right now of stuff in the last probably month or 2.
I'll give it a watch sometime. All right. Well, it looks like, by the way, the audience hasn't been complaining about the audio. I've been hearing incredible fuzziness from you. So I'm assuming that whatever you did has made it so that now the miserable experience just belongs
only for you.
now, which
correct.
Whatever, that works.
Has it been happening in the last little bit here?
Constantly.
Constantly.
If you see me like wince like this, that's because all of a sudden the volume went up for me and I'm just hearing and then I have to decipher what you said based on what you say afterwards. So
we'll see if this fixes it at all. But sound has been good. So happy days there. Happy days there. I'm beaten. It's been a long weekend.
It's been a crazy long weekend. Oh my God.
There, you want to put it out for a dono? Let someone pick a topic for us. Otherwise, we end the day.
No. Let's actually just end the day, and we'll be back tomorrow.
We're done. Fuck this.
We're done. Fuck this. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be live tomorrow, and hopefully a bit more actually live as well. I will be live at noon on my own channel in the morning. We are then going to transfer over. I'm actually looking into
tomorrow. We're not doing a stream.
We're not doing a stream tomorrow? Okay, well, I guess I'll be live on my channel tomorrow.
We're doing Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, starting this week.
We talked about that, right? Yes. We're going to be going a little bit longer, 4 hours as opposed to 2.
Except for today.
Except for today, obviously, because we don't want to. I was so tired when I started this. I don't know what it was. I actually got a good night's sleep last night. I woke up and I was just like dead. I think it's the pollen. Do you have pollen allergies?
No.
Okay. I was going to ask, because one of the things you would have noticed if you did is that all of the pollen reporting websites are down. Nothing shows any data. And it's like, what the hell?
Well, it's because all of that stuff's been fired. They've cleared out everything from Health and Human Services and the government that does all that stuff. Today they fired all...
Brooks. I'm in Canada, Brooks. What does that mean for here? The United States isn't monitoring pollen and...
I mean, we own your country now. That happened that happened overnight. You didn't hear the executive order?
God damn it.
We closed Trump and his group shut down all federal funding for museums and libraries. That happened overnight. All the people in charge of it have been fired. It's a real thing.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess we're covering this for 5 minutes. Put that on the screen, would you? I got an NPR thing for you.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, fuck it. Okay. Screw our mental health. Here we go. All right. Oh my God. Entire staff at federal agency that funds libraries and museums put on leave. Why? Oh, well, we know why. You don't need...
The IMLS is a relatively small federal agency with around 70 employees, clearly a central place of waste. 70 employees that manage all the museums and library services in the entire country. That's clearly a wasteful and not minimal group. That awards grant funding to museums and libraries across the United States. This month, President Trump...
Listen to this. Okay, hang on. Sorry. We're going to jump ahead.
Go ahead.
Placed on administrative leave for 90 days after a brief meeting between Doge staff and IMLS leadership. Doge staff. This wasn't even Musk or Trump. This was just a bunch of fucking teenagers. Just came in, we don't need museums. They don't
care.
No.
Employees had to turn in government property. Email accounts were disabled. So that's it. They funded projects such as the Workforce Training Program at the Museum of Discovery and Science in Orlando, pilot program in Iowa to help library staff address patron psychological needs and basic library functions, and various Native American tribes. You can find programs the IMLS has funded to libraries and museums in your state through its dashboard. Let's do that. Why is it not working for me? Let's try again. Why are links not working? That's so weird. That was so weird. All right, MLS dashboard. Let's do it. Grants to states. Okay. Let's try to do 224. No, nothing yet.
For
okay.
Me.
Nothing there. Oh, they probably shut it down. No, we have to select the state at the bottom, I think. Let's do it.
Oh,
Wisconsin.
Okay.
Randomly. Let's actually
we'll do
Washington.
Iowa. Federal funds, not even $500,000. This is like nothing.
Yeah, this
2 million
leadership grants to libraries in my state is just shy of, it looks like it's 890,000. This is fucking nothing.
Library services across the board is 740,000, which is crazy. Museum services 250,000. This isn't even do I have a state select or is this general? This is just general. Grants to states, $2 million. Museum services, yeah, fucking hell.
No, you have a state selected. It just doesn't show the selection at the bottom. Once you select it, it pops over.
It is Iowa. Okay,
it's a funny.
I was going to say like that. That's impossible that's that low.
But here's the thing: like my state, very little. Washington, very little. Let's do. We'll do requests. Idaho. Here you go. Native American grant services. It's $130,000.
Like the amount they're giving would have trouble floating a coffee shop. Like
1.7 million that went to Idaho, 50,000 for museum services, 128 for library services.
How about New York?
And it's for Native American services because there's no funding in the state for that, probably.
Museum services, 8 million for New York, 8.4 million. 8.5 million. That's just grants to the states generally.
But as you go into like Alabama, look at that. Oh, wow. It's so much more awarded than my state. I wonder why. And I'm not saying I'm against it. Not against it. I'm not against it. I think Alabama should be funded more because the state really doesn't have that much revenue and there isn't a lot there. There really isn't. But like 3 million going to the states.
Florida, to everyone's surprise, has the lowest amount of federal funds to, I think the lowest amount of federal funds to libraries. It's under $1 million.
But they get 10.7 million from this program.
No, they're not. They're just on the low end.
They get 10.7 million from this.
So and Iowa's smaller, yeah.
This hurts red states more than everything else. Once again, is anyone shocked? Like, let's see. Texas should get fucked too. Nope. So Texas gets that 16.6. California, in comparison, gets 26. Big states. New York. $19. I mean, these aren't
So
small
if I
numbers,
look at
nothing. This helps museums and libraries and.
Well, it's crazy because when you look, it's like the average cost to run a museum is like anywhere to $10 million, like from $1 million to 10 million. It's crazy. Like these rely on government assistance. Otherwise, they just don't work because they're museums.
Amazing. It's just.
Which, to be clear, by the way, there's a lot of problems with museums as well. But it's like
this ain't it. This is $266 million last year in grants and research funding to cultural institutions. It goes to staff, fund maintenance, and create new programs. The National Endowment for the Arts is $210 million, which is barely less. They're wanting, and
the amount they're giving would maybe possibly run one museum.
Fuck.
For a state, like an entire state.
All right, I've got one more headline I want to just pop on for you because it's funny and just see your reaction. You ready?
Yeah.
Our Interior Secretary in the U.S. Certainly there's room on Mount Rushmore for Trump.
I think I actually wholeheartedly agree with this. I think they should fly Trump to the top of Mount Rushmore forthwith and leave him there. And if he can get down unassisted, he can have a third term. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. I think, yeah.
Claudia Tenney, Republican New York, proposed a bill in February that would establish Trump's birthday and Flag Day, or June 14th, as a public holiday. That's my brother's birthday.
This is pathetic. Well,
no modern president has been more
anymore. I'm sorry, Brooks.
Yeah, I know. No modern president has been more pivotal for our country than Donald J. Trump. As both our 45th and 47th president, he is the most consequential president in American history, leading our country at a time of great international and domestic turmoil. From brokering the historic Abraham Accords, how's that going for you, to championing the largest tax relief package in American history, which is now the largest tax increase package. His impact on the nation is undeniable. Just as George Washington's birthday is codified, this bill will add Trump's birthday to the list, recognizing him as the founder of America's golden age.
I love that language. Like, he's the most consequential president. Who's the most consequential leader of Germany, in your opinion?
Yeah. It's really fascinating. The Abrams Accords still in there? Is that a thing still? Like, why are they still mentioning that? Are those aren't still active, are they? Normalizing UAE, Bahrain, Morocco.
The agreement
Israel.
is unratified as of 2024.
Yeah, so it's not a thing. It didn't even happen. Amazing.
No, it's unratified with Sudan. It looks like.
Oh.
No, they did happen. It's just I'm.
What is the Israel-UAE agreement these days? Because I know Saudi Arabia was supposed to sign on for it and didn't. Did they finally sign in? No, they did not. It is an alternate reality, man. Like, it's extraordinary. It's just completely an alternate reality.
I mean, I for one look forward to living in BioShock in a few years. It'll be great. I think it's going to be really interesting. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I wish it was that cool.
Well, if you let Trump put his face onto the on Mount Rushmore, maybe it will be. You don't know.
It won't happen. Like, the people don't understand how long it took for Mount Rushmore to happen, or the way that the demolitions happened, and also the things that have to happen in order for that to occur. And it's not nearly as impressive. The photos, I don't know if you've ever been. Have you ever been?
I haven't left the country.
Oh, that's true. I keep forgetting. It is not as impressive in person as the photos make it seem. The photos make it seem like it's this grand thing, but like, it's kind of small and in the distance, and it feels like a Disney park thing where they used forced perspective. Like, it feels very strange. It sucks. The crazy horse statue that they've been trying to build, or the one guy who's a absolutely wonderful, best kind of lunatic in his family, have been trying to build nearby, is far more crazy. I don't know if you've seen that shit. Are you aware of any of this?
No, none of it at all, actually, as a matter of fact.
So the Crazy Horse Memorial is fucking amazing. It is this big, gigantic thing. This guy's like just started dynamiting. He bought the mountain. I'm showing on a screen if you want to see.
That's not bad. That's pretty good.
It's getting there.
That's pretty good.
And the setup and the way that he's been doing it, it's really incredible at night to see, because it's lit up.
If I'm going to be honest, looks a bit more like the actor who played him in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee than the actual guy, but it looks pretty good.
Yeah, and the goal is, this is what it's supposed to look like, and this is the guy's statue, and this is the real thing in the background. Yeah. It is huge. Like, it is weirdly big to see in person.
Yeah.
And like, when you see fireworks and everything going off over it, it's amazing. I got to spend time with the native tribes actually right here, and the memorial area. It's pretty cool. The stories are pretty amazing, and the people too.
It looks more like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I think we only have paintings of him. No, we do have a picture of him. It's on the cover of the. No, we got to cover him.
Yeah, no, the guy.
They cast him well. I'm just saying, it's got that. He looks like the actor from Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee. If you haven't seen that, which is actually pretty decent for the budget they had.
Whereas if you're going to be like, we're going to be talking about Mount Rushmore.
But it's also like a big part of that too is probably the angle as well, because the photos we have are like obviously the you're looking at it from a drone overlooking a mountain. It's not going to be a.
Well, that's
this shot's closer. This shot's closer to it over here, where it's more head on. I see it. That's actually really impressive. That's crazy.
Yeah, this is more what Mount Rushmore looks like. Actually, you feel like you're not allowed to get that close at all. It's really shit in person. It's really shit in person. It's hard to even describe how much crap it is.
Really?
Like it is not impressive. One second.
Oh, so it's not that big.
I mean, it is, but it's also weird.
That looks weird.
It's very strange.
You're expecting like that scene from Fellowship of the Ring. It's like, long have I wanted to gaze upon the faces of my forefathers or whatever. It's just like, oh.
Yeah, it's the image, you can kind of see it when you pull up. You get, it's so filled with garbage. This is kind of what it looks. This is what it looks like. This is exactly it. There's flags for every state. It's so fucking stupid.
That looks awful. Why is it so messy?
Crap.
The mountain, it looks tiny. It looks like
it's not nearly as impressive.
It looks like a little slab. Well, so they don't show the edges of it when they take photos. They show like, oh, those are the statues. It's like there's like a giant ass gravel pit in front of it.
Yeah, someone in the chat said it best. They're like, it's because it is big, but they made it big in a way that makes it small. Because of how it's angled, how it's set up, what it's in front of, it makes it seem much smaller than it is. And it's very deeply underwhelming. Like, this is zoomed in beyond words, and this is when it's lit up at night. It's so terrible. And again, we carved our faces, and these are sacred mountains to these people, to the indigenous people. So like, they're huge, but they're only really huge if like you're underneath them, right?
Right, where you're not allowed to go.
And so like when you start talking about like the Crazy Horse Memorial is fucking gigantic. And it's gigantic in a way that is like absolutely stunning. When even
also its location is cooler, bluntly.
I mean,
Like, look here. Look at
the
this
tours
shot.
take you right up. When they're not dynamiting, you can actually go right the fuck up there.
Like, check
check
this
a
out.
tour you have to call it the whole thing.
Check this one out. Here, I'm putting this into the thing.
But even like at this distance, it still looks massive.
Yeah, but look at this one just to get a sense of scale, because that looks monumental. That looks like a.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Like there's aliens built that, and there's a spaceship under that thing.
It has that for sure. Oh, come on, just open the fucking image. Oh my God. It's not letting me. Come on. Why won't you let me? Nope, won't let me open it in the browser. Oh, there it goes. There we go. Visit site. Come on. There it goes. It is huge. It is huge in person. And it's really cool to see. And again, when you start seeing like the story of it and how it was like this one, when I say crazy guy, I don't mean to be like silly or whatever. Like this dude just fucking decided to start building this one day. That's one of his fingers. Like that's crazy shit. It's really cool in person. It really is something else to see.
Well, you don't realize that secretly they're constructing a giant gun for him to hold.
And it's him pointing, actually.
Well, yeah, because they don't want to give the game away too early. But at some point, they're going to refigure that, and the finger is going to curl. And then shit's going to get real.
Crazy.
That's insane. How long has that been worked on?
70 years. It's crazy. The story goes on forever. And the guy started doing it a long time ago. He actually knew him. And then he got the land and he started carving it. And it was like this, he wanted to set it up and his kids are now in charge of it. I think, I can't remember if it's changed. I haven't been out there since 2007. So like they've made so much room.
People are saying he has fucking fingernails. Like that's surprising. You think he'd just be like a giant Wallace and Gromit clay figure?
I mean, look, the detail in it is amazing.
It's insane. It's insane.
And again, when you compare it to like this head is easily, I think, twice the size or 3 times the size of anything at Mount Rushmore. Good on them.
Anyways, I want to go outside.
You do that.
Chat, thanks for joining us. Like the stream, share the stream. We'll be back on Wednesday for longer.
We'll be around. Do drop a dono to us. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff. We'll have more energy a little bit later in the week.
Make sure you subscribe. Yeah. We are so close to being able to monetize. We are just, where are we at amazing. As of right now? We are at, oh my God, we only need, guys, 79.
Subscribe.
We need 79 more subscribers. That's it. Get your grandmother to subscribe, okay? Just go. Go forth.
Support us. Thank you. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye.